morning, folks. I'm just finishing step 7. I'm going to do step 8 in this video. I just glued my boards together for my lid. There is times if you were doing it even fancier that you would cut it apart again and glue it up again. But for now I'm happy with the way it is, and so I'm going to take my boards. I used a chisel to scrape off some of the glue that had dripped out, and now I'm going to plane it flat on one face, plane the next face flat, and go with a jointer. And so I'm going to re-square and cut this lid to size and plane it to finished thickness. So now I have it planed to finished thickness. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to square an edge. I decided I want to square off one of the ends on the miter saw before I move along, just so I can perfectly center my one stripe. So I'm going to do that before I table saw.
When you're squaring up an end and you only have one square edge, make sure to put that edge against the fence.
Now, because I wanted to keep my one red stripe right in the middle, I have to measure, and I'm going to have to cut this twice. And it's a little bit tricky, so you got to think about it and cut it twice on the table saw. And make sure you're using your square edge against the fence to start. And now I have it cut to finished width. I got an end already squared. If you don't, you can square the end. And now I'm going to measure it to finished length and cut it there. Make sure to follow the plan because it's a little wider and a little bigger than your actual box is. I just want to make a note at this point. If on your actual box you messed up the length or the width and your box is a little bit smaller, you will have to adjust either the width or the length of your lid so that it's just a little bit bigger based on what the plan is. So make sure you think about that. Your box, if it's different than the plan, that'll make the lid change as well. So I'm going to measure the finished length here. And now I have my lid to thickness, to width, and to length, and I was able to perfectly center my red stripe. And now I'm going to create the rabbit so the lid can fit on top of the box. Okay, now I'm going to make the rabbit for the underside of my lid. So you need to pick what you would like the bottom of your lid to be. If there's any blemishes or any gaps or anything, put that to the bottom. And I'm going to use the table saw. I'm sure it's quite possible to use the router. But our routers are all used up doing other things, so I'm going to do it here. I'm going to run it through the saw like this, but I find it's a little bit too tall to keep it nice and tight to the fence. So I'm going to put an auxiliary fence on that's a little bit taller than the regular fence. And that way I won't have my board falling over on me, and I'll be able to keep my hands nicely away from the blade. So I have that tight there. Then, I'm going to set the blade height, and it does say on the plan how high to put the blade, but essentially you want to do it the width of your walls plus the overlap of your lid, and then a little bit more. I don't like to do this, I only like to do it once. I don't like have to run over the saw again, because then there's a chance of making a mistake. So I make it a little bit higher, and maybe the lid might have a little bit of wiggle, but I'm okay with that. So my blade height is good. And now I'm going to set the fence. Now there's numbers you can use, but I like to take out just a blade width or slightly less than a blade width here, and that works as a good setting for me. So most of the lid will be towards the fence, the top of the lid, and then the bottom will take out a nice slice all the way around. I'm going to use 2 push sticks, and I'll turn the saw on, and I'm ready to go. So I didn't use the push stick on the end grains, but I was putting my hand on top, so I'm confident if the wood kicked back, my hand would not go down into the blade. And now I'm going to test it on my box, make sure it fits. And like I said, it's a little bit loose, but it does keep the lid on, so I'm happy with that. There we go. There's my finished lid and my box with my rabbit all the way around, holding it in place. Okay, and the last thing I want to do to finish off step 8 is I'm going to find somewhere on the bottom of my lid to write my name and the year, just to kind of mark the box as mine and be proud of it. And so you can start very lightly in pencil to draw your signature or name, and then we'll get a wood burning pen and burn it very nicely, just like you see I did here. And that way your box will be marked as yours forevermore. Before you burn on your box, I would definitely practice until you feel good enough on some scraps of wood, and use the same species of wood because each species is a little bit different.
Before you start to wood burn on the bottom of your lid, it's best to sand it because you don't want to sand it after you've done the wood burning. So give it a good sanding until you're happy with it, with the palm sanders, and then hand sanding. Now before I wood burn on the bottom of my box, I want to practice wood burning on a scrap of lumber. I still have one of my ends left from building my box, so I'm going to practice wood burning on that until I feel comfortable with how to use it and how to make turns and curves. Once I've practiced, then I'm ready to wood burn on the bottom of my box. So I'll start by using a pencil and lightly drawing what I want to wood burn, and then I'm going to wood burn over the whole bit of pencil. You saw me there use my sandpaper just to clean off the wood burner, and slow and steady I want to make it as perfect as possible. The bigger you write something, the easier it is, but make sure you've practiced enough to do a good job. Make sure to unplug your wood burner and not melt the cord, and I like to just clean it up a little bit before I finish.